Alberto Ascari was killed in a crash when testing the Ferrari 750 Monza at Monza on May 26, 1955, aged 36. His funeral was attended by over 1 million mourners, and he is buried in the Monumental Cemetery of Milan in Italy. Mike Hawthorn was killed in a car accident on the Hogsback in Surrey on January 22, 1959, aged 29, less than 3 months after retiring from Formula One, and he is buried in the West Street Cemetery in nearby Farnham, where he grew up. Nino Farina was killed in a car crash in the Savoy Alps when en route to the French Grand Prix on June 30, 1966, aged 59, and he is buried in the Monumental Cemetery of Turin in Italy. Jim Clark was killed in a crash in a Formula 2 race at the Hockenheimring on April 7, 1968, aged 36, and he is buried in the parish churchyard in Churnside in Berwickshire in Scotland. Jochen Rindt was killed in a crash in qualifying for the Italian Grand Prix on September 5, 1970, aged 28, and he is buried in the Zentralfriedhof in Graz in Austria. Graham Hill was killed in a plane crash near Barnet in North London on November 29, 1975, aged 46, and he is buried in the now deconsecrated graveyard of St Botolph's Church in Shenleybury in Hertfordshire. Denny Hulme died from a massive heart attack whilst competing in the Bathurst 1000 in Australia on October 4, 1992, aged 56, and he is buried in the Ngutepuke Cemetery in the Bay of Plenty in New Zealand, alongside his son Martin, who died on Christmas Day 1988. James Hunt died from a heart attack at his home in Wimbledon in South London on June 15, 1993, aged 45, and he was cremated and his ashes scattered at an unknown location. Ayrton Senna was killed in a crash during the San Marino Grand Prix on May 1, 1994, aged 34. His state funeral was attended by 3 million mourners, and he is buried in the Morumbi Cemetery in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Juan Manuel Fangio died from bronchopneumonia in his hometown of Balcarce in Argentina on July 17, 1995, aged 84. He was buried in Balcarce Cemetery, but in 2021 his remains were moved to a new mausoleum in the Museo Juan Manuel Fangio. Phil Hill was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 2003 and died in the Community Hospital of the Monterey Peninsula in Monterey, California on August 28, 2008, aged 81, and is buried in the Woodlawn Cemetery in Santa Monica. Sir Jack Brabham died from liver disease at his home in the Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia on May 19, 2014, aged 88, and he was cremated and his ashes were scattered at the Tambourine Rainforest Skywalk outside the city. John Surtees died from respiratory failure at St George's Hospital in London on March 10, 2017, aged 83, and is buried in the churchyard of St Peter and St Paul's Church in Lingfield in Surrey, alongside his son Henry, who was killed in a Formula 2 race at Brands Hatch in 2009. Niki Lauda's infamous crash at the 1976 German Grand Prix left him with lifelong health problems and required several operations, and he died at the University Hospital of Zurich in Switzerland on May 20, 2019, aged 70, after undergoing dialysis, and he is buried in the Heiligenstadter Friedhof in Vienna in Austria, wearing his original Ferrari overalls.